Hey everybody, how's it going? So last week, while I was spending far too much time working on a 2-hour-long Assassin's Creed Shadows video, which sounds more like a torture ritual, I ended up missing quite a few topics I wanted to talk about. One of them was the self-deletion of a game from Steam called No Mercy, which became worldwide news and sparked quite a bit of controversy and discussion online. Seriously, this even became part of the actual national news in my country. I don't even mean the IGN or Eurogamer versions, I mean the actual news. There was also a limp attempt at censoring an achievement in Schedule 1, a hit indie game made by like one dude, which came out and sold more copies on Steam than even Assassin's Creed Shadows, or at least it sure looks like it by its player engagement, but we'll cover this one in a separate video so as to not make this one too long. We're gonna be talking about the situation, and I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments because it's an interesting and tricky topic. In general, I'm against the censorship of games, movies, shows, etc. But in the case of No Mercy, it's definitely complicated, like I went and researched it, if you know what I mean. No, seriously, I actually did go and look it up online, as well as Steam's whole underground section, so that I wouldn't be talking out of my ass in this video, not knowing what I'm tackling. And it's certainly very difficult to defend it. It's a game that I wouldn't die on a hill trying to argue why it's totally harmless and shouldn't be removed because it's art or whatever, because the way that the game presented itself, it's just a totally losing battle where one must accept the reality of what we're seeing. If you take that game's description and thumbnail and you show it to a normie, like someone that doesn't even play video games or who plays them very casually, especially if they're a parent, and then you tell them that anyone savvy enough could access it on Steam, they would see it as a problem because optically this game is cooked. And I think the way that this issue came and went within the space of about a week shows that most people were on the same boat. I didn't even see people defending the game itself. What I saw was people against censorship based on the reasoning behind the people trying to cancel it. We'll get to the reasoning a bit later in the video. I literally read comments saying they don't like the game and have no desire to play it, but didn't agree with the fact that something was being hounded and pulled down because of arbitrary reasoning. People didn't like seeing a game get targeted by activists. This was basically the problem, and I don't mean like a group of people who happen to be activists online, I mean literally a dedicated group that exists and lives off of activism. Their name is Collective Shout. If you check out their page, you will see that they're an organization. They consider themselves as non-profit, but they do take in donations, and it's just common sense that, if you have an organization and people to work for it, you need capital, otherwise you can't pay your bills. More on this in a bit. On their website, they record various wins, but several of their campaigns are also, not shady, like that's not the right word, just exaggerated and potentially politically motivated. For example, they have one against X, wanting the platform to ban corn content. If you scroll through their dedicated page on that campaign, you will see rhetoric that makes it look like it's a problem that Elon Musk himself brought onto the platform and allows to exist, whereas I remember being on Twitter years before he actually bought it, and there was always corn content there, and it was even more easily accessible because if someone you followed happened to like a post of that sort, you could get it popping up on your timeline with a little mention of the person you follow having liked the post. I had this happen to me several times and I didn't even know how to approach the situation, like I wanted to tell the guy because it was somebody that I knew. I wanted to be like, hey man, the stuff that you like is public and is showing up on other people's timelines, but I just couldn't bring myself to be the one to say it, so I just never did. They also do that annoying thing of taking offense at stuff like, for example, the Playboy logo because it sexualizes women, and post several links to several clothing stores that sell Playboy merch, telling people to target them, call them, and demand that they take down their Playboy stock. And also some exaggerations like, for example, calling tattoos and clothes with that daddy kink stuff on sale to be encouraging people to bang their kids, when we know precisely that this daddy kink stuff is not that. I mean, don't get me wrong, fellas, I don't get it and it's not my style at all, but to imply that a store selling stuff like that is promoting and glorifying child abuse, is a wild accusation. I mean, we all know what that stuff is. Haven't people watched How I Met Your Mother? You know, it was a pretty popular sitcom. I used to watch it when I was a kid. They had a gay actor play the straightest guy in the story, which was a brilliant move. And he had all sorts of these phrases, you know, like catchphrases like "Daddy's back" or "Daddy's home," you know, that kind of thing. It was a mainstream show. Are we supposed to say that that show was promoting the same thing? I mean, come on. So it's because of stuff like this that it makes me doubt this group of activists and kinda not take their work very seriously, even though I'm sure that they have done some legitimately good things in their years and years of active service. That's a lot of days, and even a broken clock can be right twice a day. Regardless though, I think that people also see precisely the way that No Mercy presented itself was asking for trouble. After all, we may be against censorship in various means, but there's always a limit to what can be shown and engaged with in media, and more specifically what can even be published on Steam and other platforms. This situation is tricky to navigate. Basically, it's a generally unappealing game where the actions that you do in it are straight up morally screwed up, and it's not just an additional aspect of the game, it's the main premise of it. But the reasoning behind the appeal to censorship or takedown is bad and can be abused. At this point, this doesn't really matter anymore because the creator of the game deleted the game from Steam. He defended the game's existence, but stated that he had no desire in getting Steam or himself in trouble either or anything of the sort. The thing here is that this game wasn't targeted because someone bought it, took a deep dive and found examples of inexcusable depravity that they then expressed and exemplified, thereby setting a very clear line of what was supposedly actually so problematic about it. It was just targeted because of its general concept and because of hypothetical arguments pertaining to how bad this is for society, or more specifically women and children, which is what this organization usually focuses on. But the reality is that if they hadn't targeted this game for cancellation, nobody would even be talking about it. This wasn't a situation like Schedule 1 where the game was wildly popular and then it had controversy following it. This was the opposite. Nobody knew about this game, it was just one of thousands of Gooner games on Steam until this movement targeted it and the Streisand effect took place, getting a bunch of people to now know about it, and not just that but also of this general kind of game and its existence on Steam. One of the things in the activists page says that they exposed the 12-year-old plus gaming platform Steam for hosting the game, as if the game was right there in the front page readily available for 12-year-olds to find. The fact is that you only see these adult games if you turn off the age filter. Kids aren't exposed to this by default, and parents have parental control options to manage it. Them blowing this game up like this has just ended up doing a lot more damage than if they had just let the game be in its underground 18+ market, because now, oh for sure there'll be teenagers and shit trying to find the game and more games like it after hearing about it, just out of morbid curiosity, if for nothing else. I mean, I remember when I was a kid and there were these quote-unquote forbidden videos that other kids talked about in school, and we all ended up watching them because of that curiosity. They became these fads, you know, it was all everyone was talking about for a while, and then people ended up watching them. And they weren't on YouTube either, it wasn't anything of that sort. So whether something is easily accessible or not, people are going to end up finding it anyway when it reaches this high level of virality, you know, the Streisand effect, basically. And that brings me to another point, which is there's loads of other games just like this one. They may not be as edgy in their marketing and nomenclature as No Mercy was, including not as edgy in the presentation of the content in the game, you know, as in the narrative of the game, where this whole grape thing comes into place. But similar stuff is absolutely there. There's tons of these adult visual novel style games that exist solely for sexual gratification and fantasies, and that's where the issue for the reasoning behind the takedown of this game comes in. If all it takes for a game to be targeted by activists, be sent letters to governmental boards, making huge noise on media platforms, promoting petitions, etc., is to have content that presents women in vulnerable positions or exploits them for sexual gratification, even though it's literally just a fictitious character model in a video game, something entirely fictional, and that also includes male characters in the context, then this entire side of the industry will collapse. And it's not even just this side of the industry. industry, because we see that in the AAA industry as well right now, where you can't even have a cleavage on a character. The same reasoning is there. It's about sexual gratification, having women be in vulnerable positions, and promoting their sexualization and objectification. You won't hear them complaining about male characters in the same situation with ripped bodies, no shirts, bulges, etc. But for female characters, oh, they'll never shut up. But in the case of No Mercy, it is definitely more explicit. However, it's important to differentiate that this game did not exist within the main games industry. It's very important to distinguish this from the actual games industry, because these activists lumped everything together. That's part of what that little comment in regards to Steam is there for. But there's a huge separation between the adult games industry and the actual games industry. These kinds of games aren't present on PlayStation or Xbox, for example. They exist separately, kind of underground, know what I mean? It's not something that Steam or any other actual games industry affiliate would promote, because it's not that kind of thing, and I think that that's a good thing. It keeps both realms separated, and it does it very well. Like, I didn't even know that this shit existed on Steam until very recently, and I've been using it since 2009, 2010 maybe. I got it when I was a kid just so that I could play Counter-Strike, Half-Life, and Ricochet. For over a decade of my life, a Gooner Game never crossed my dashboard nor appeared while I was searching for other games on the storefront. So yeah, this entire thing has been already way overblown right off the bat, and more effective than having the game removed was actually their ability to make it go mainstream. This game and this genre is now more famous than it ever was before the drama with this game, and the potential repercussions that Steam may suffer as a result of this, and of course us as well by proxy, are insane and make this entire endeavor a totally irresponsible shit show for virtue signal points that failed. The end outcome has done more damage than anything else. A big thing I take issue with is this on their page. In response to our campaign against the Grape simulation game, we were subjected to harassment and abuse from gamers defending their access to it and proving our point in the process. They had no points proved at all. People weren't defending their access to the game, they were attacking the act of censorship and the misrepresentation of the situation. This is the core reason why people defended No Mercy. They didn't have access to it, they didn't even want access to it. They're just sick of seeing activists who know jack shit about the games industry and aren't gamers trying to dictate what is and isn't appropriate in a video game based off of, this is the important part, emotional based arguments that lack sense and don't stand up to scrutiny and can be applied to a bunch of other media, even in the AAA space, resulting in even more censorship to deal with. So often we see emotional manipulation come in and ruin a good thing, and by this I don't mean the No Mercy game itself. Again, I couldn't care less about it. I don't like it, I don't like the concept, and I'll be honest, if I had a kid, I wouldn't want my kid to play it. That's why lumping these two situations together is so tough. Had this been handled quietly and appropriately, I wouldn't be bothered by it, but exploding it out onto the mainstream and getting a bunch of news outlets talking about this as if this is the norm on Steam, where people are just browsing through the store and suddenly a game about abuse just pops up, is total bullshit, especially when those arguments come from people who do this shit for a living. I don't want to be totally unfair here, I'm sure this group has done some good things with their advocacy efforts before, but the problem is that when you do activism shit for a living, like when your job is to find problems to complain about, you can never really run out of problems. You have to keep finding or creating new ones to make your organization worthy of those donations. If you run out of shit to advocate against and take down and record as a win in your website, as they do right there on their front page, then the well dries up. There's no longer any more reason for funding to come in. Suddenly these people have to get a real job and then they don't have time to complain about shit professionally anymore. Another aspect about this that I don't like is that it doesn't matter what the situation is, there is no room for nuance, there is no room for a discussion on the matter, there is no room for advocating for caution, there is no room for a measured approach or room for solving the problem quietly and effectively, because groups like these need to be able to record these things as a win. They thrive off of the attention and exposure that these things bring them. That's how they get eyes on them, that's how they gain legitimacy, for lack of a better word, and that's how they get these these donations to come in. So it's not really about solving a problem, that's just the reported version so you can look good. It's more about raising a ruckus and logging it as a victory, painting a situation to look as bad and as dangerous and as fucked up as possible to get people riled up and supporting you in your effort with fervor. I don't think I need to say anything else in regards to why is it that people look at this as a problem. Also, in a more simplified way, it's lame as hell. I mean, who likes a chronic complainer who's always looking at things purposefully from an angle to find problems to moralize on others for? People with the inability to mind their own business and a twisted desire for power to lord it over other people on shit that they don't even engage with. This is the main issue with the entire thing. This is why people were excusing it, not because they were defending this game like, oh my god, oh this game is amazing, man, I hope it wins Game of the Year 2025. Somebody please get Jeff Keighley on the phone, we gotta get him to put this game up there for the Game Awards. Basically, the core argument when it comes to censoring or removing things is that this one thing is really, really bad and is being used in fiction, and it shouldn't be because it A, is inappropriate, B, is morally wrong, C, it can be dangerous / harmful to society, D, it glorifies something bad, so on so forth. And so people who don't want their media to be screwed around with by activists who do activism for a living, which is one hell of a biased position, try to push back against this crap, even if the product is something that they wouldn't buy or care for. And honestly, why shouldn't they? Some people say, why defend this if you don't care? Why bother so much with this crap? Well, activists don't care either. They don't play these games, yet they're trying to gain power and legitimacy in their endeavors of censorship by using the game. And the bullshit reasoning is so vague that it takes me back to, back when the media and politicians and all that were trying to take down games like GTA and Doom and some others for violence, saying that the actions that players take in these games are so vile and are just going to inspire them to do vile things in real life. It's the same kind of concept. There's also a lot of holes in their logic. Some people don't like the argument in regards of how much bad stuff there is out there, even in more mainstream media, such as violence, murder, torture, we just said about GTA and Doom, but it is true. These are all morally reprehensible actions that we can engage in loads of video games, some of which are even very explicit about it. Now, granted, No Mercy is a bit different because it is an adult visual novel with that as its main premise, along with the explicit scenes. It's not like GTA where you can drive a car down the beach and take out like 100 NPCs and then fight the army. There's obviously much more to GTA than just that. But it's still definitely one of its main features, and I mean, who hasn't done that? Who hasn't challenged themselves to see how long they can survive with 5 stars? In the end, this is all morally evil actions that you can engage with totally freely and totally uncensored, and kids are exposed to it. And it's perfectly fine because it's fictional. If you are a well-adjusted individual, this kind of garbage is not going to affect you, and we can't shape every aspect of society in accordance to maladjusted individuals. Otherwise, we couldn't do a goddamn thing. And we also know how this garbage works, don't we already? It never just ends, it's always escalating, and at the moment we're going through a terrible time where we have overly sensitive, out-of-touch, politically driven people making terrible decisions in high positions in the industry. Acknowledging and barring access to a game that has quote-unquote really, really bad stuff is not what is going to happen. This is a game of power. Each little win feeds into the legitimacy and clout that activists attain. People stood up and defended this because it's a slippery slope for even more oversensitivity and political correctness in a medium that is already swarmed by it. Again, this isn't new. We see what's been going on in the industry, and between political correctness gone wrong and no regulation at all, people would just rather have the latter and let the market decide when a product has crossed the line and gone too far. No Mercy was one such game, and it only became famous because of the cancellation attempt. Gamers weren't defending Grape, they were defending the integrity of the games that they do like, because they know that these pricks are not going to stop at the games that they don't What sucks about this kind of thing is that today the target may have been justifiable, may have been a game that most of us have no interest or regard in whatsoever and that exists in the underground industry of adult games, but tomorrow it may be questionable, and it may be a game that already exists above ground, and the one after that will be totally wrongful and malicious interpretation of content that companies will bend over to anyway because of the power and legitimacy, for lack of a better word again, that these groups attained. I mean, just look at how far Sweet Baby Inc. has gone, and their conduct to get there. They didn't do it fairly and legitimately. They manipulated people, they intimidated them, they coerced them by using that same power born of those same narratives. This is an irresponsible use of power. You're basically leveraging a situation, using outrage and cancel culture to try and bend content to your sensitivities, and if you guys check out this group's page, you will see that their sensitivities are very sensitive, very frail. The reason why they moved on this instead of other games like Stellar Blade or, you know, the knockers on the blacksmith lady in Monster Hunter Wilds, which in their mind objectify women, is because they know that they don't have the sauce necessary to take that one down yet. You know those ads for mobile games that you get while you're browsing shorts while taking a dump, where you start with a level 1 character and then you have to defeat a level 1 character and then your character is level 2 and then you can, you know, keep going up and up and up? That's how it works, fellas. Also, to be fair, they didn't really have to make big moves on the AAA industry because this is already a problem industry-wide. In many ways, we're already walking on eggshells to the point where we have to set up character creators saying body type 1 and 2 instead of the words male and female because of companies hiring consultants or hiring this very same kind of person onto their companies who are already sanitizing things that may be offensive and harmful to someone somewhere in accordance to the nonsense that they come up with. Nonsense that people don't really resonate with, but that they go with because it's optically bad to reject it or stand against it. It's optically bad to just say that a character creator should have male and female instead of body types because some green-haired freak will stand up and say, "Oh my god, that is like so transphobic." The truth is that we're already living through this in our media, where even a remaster of a 2006 game whose goal was to keep everything intact to the point where we literally have the same bugs, the same idiotic little memes like the voice actress and their double take, when that game still has to compromise parts of it for this ridiculous ideology, is it really surprising at all that some gamers would look at this attack and react against it? I don't think it's abnormal at all. I think this is a reaction to the current state of the industry. People are just tired of this holier-than-thou bullshit from outsiders that don't even fucking engage with the medium to begin with. They're the first to organize boycotts, but the last to buy any game at all, to support anything at all, even if a game releases with everything perfect, everything that they want, such as Veilguard, they still don't show up to buy that game and make it successful. They just leave us with the garbage that we don't want to buy, and then the companies can fend for themselves with their layoffs. Congratulations, dumbass, you played yourselves. But again, you know, I get it. With No Mercy, this was never going to go any other way. No chance at all, because the themes, the marketing, the description of the game itself, it was all hashtag Edgelord Plus. So it wasn't really going to go anywhere else. This was the way that it was going to go. All it would really take is for somebody to grab a screenshot of this shit, show it to some parents, and they would immediately get worried that some wild shit is going down on what they believe to be a normal, child-appropriate game platform that their kids can use. Though obviously as a parent, you should always keep an eye on things, especially when so many games, normal games that are marketed to children, have predatory monetization that kids are very susceptible to. And I'm talking about the AAA industry here, of course. And anyway, I think that this is precisely why nobody died on a hill trying to defend it. Hell, not even the creator did. He just peaced out like, "Oh, okay, sorry, bye." And I think he did the right thing. Again, there's loads of adult games on Steam where you do some morally questionable shit by these people's standards. It's just that it's usually written and presented in a retarded way, you know what I mean? It's like, "Oh, you're trying to clap my cheeks? Oh my god, what a coincidence. I actually always wanted you to do it." It's the same. It's the same as those novels that women write for other women, filled with grape fantasies as well. They're written in some retarded fantasy too, where, the guy basically looks like Giga Chad, and they always have secretly lusted for each other or some other gay heterosexual shit like that. Or, like Korn. We all know the meme of getting stuck in the washing machine. Oh no, stepbrother, I'm stuck. And then what happens, and everybody lives happily ever after. So, if you want to make Gooner games, just play by the same retarded rules and you should be fine. At the end of the day, it's just like developers in AAA. They could make child NPCs killable in RPGs. It's still fiction. It's more than fine. Like, I used to have mods for Skyrim that essentially, they removed the essential status from all the NPCs in the world so that nobody was immune to getting killed. And every now and then, I would throw Braith off of Whiterun's highest wall because she just pissed me off. What now? Am I going to do it in real life? Am I a walking menace? I also stole cabbages and tomatoes from the vendors and sold it to them the next day. Am I going to do that now in real life too because I did it in a video game? Every now and then I like to do a little quick save and go on a full rampage. Whenever I get new armor or a new skill or a new power or whatever, I like to do that, even if just to see if I am relatively stronger than I was before, like how many guards does it take, how long can I survive against these guards, etc. And what's the problem? It's a video game, it's not real, it's fake, it's fictional. Again, we can't go and fully cater to the unhinged, mentally ill people of a society when the vast majority of gamers on the planet are going to be at least minimally well adjusted enough that they are playing a video game, turning it off, and then heading out and living a normal life. With that said, there's always rules that developers don't cross, such as the kid situation. And why is that? Well, because it's a way to keep the peace. Ratings boards don't have to go crazy, activists don't have to start licking their lips at all the donations that they're about to score from that shit, the game's media doesn't have to spaz out about how offensive something is, publishers and platforms don't have to go and deal with a bunch of problems, the studio doesn't have to get mobbed on Twitter by people the activists riled up, investors don't have to see their heart rate go up as parents start learning that there's a video game where you can just blast a kid off of a cannon or something. They don't have to deal with some countries banning their game or asking them to censor stuff in it. And at the end of the day, everybody's happy. Everybody wins over a small limitation. And as long as those limitations are small, we're good to go. The problem is when activists want to make them bigger. But anyway, that's about it from me on this one. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. I found the discourse on social media in regards to this game to be pretty interesting because there's a lot to explore in regards to what is too much, is anything at all too much, what shouldn't be presented, also things that can be presented but it depends on the context that they're presented in, so on and so forth. So let me know your thoughts. Thank you very much for watching, kindly drop the video a like if you enjoyed it, and I'll see you on the next one. Take care.